Hello everyone, it is your DJ for life, and I am coming to you today from the Castillo de San Marco, and you can see it here in the background. So we're going to go check it out here. I've been to St. Augustine a couple times, and as far as checking this place out, I've never seen it. It's not air conditioned, and so hopefully it won't be too bad. Right now it is a little humid, but not as bad as it was earlier this morning, kind of from what it feels like anyway. But yeah, we'll check it out. I've heard a few things about this, how the design of it, as far as the material used, can be used to, well, not catch, but absorb the impact of motor, if I can say that correctly, and how that can absorb the impact of a motor or a cannonball and not crack like the surrounding structure. So that's pretty cool, and we'll learn here about how coquina was made and some other facts about the area. So let's go take a look and see what's all inside. So this is called the Ravelin or Ravelin, not sure how they exactly pronounce it, but it's kind of like a little outer defense here before you get to the actual main defense here with and they have 4 kind of outlets, and they have cannons all around here. Somewhere I think I read it said they had more of the 6-pound cannon shots, and then they had a few of the 18-pound cannon shots that they could fire from this place. So that was actually pretty cool, and a lot of firepower for sure. Here's one of the rooms when you first enter through the drawbridge of the fort here. It talks about their daily life and how they would stay here when they're on duty, but otherwise they would live in town and need second jobs to feed their family. But here is where they would sleep, cook, and eat. At least your bedroom would smell pretty good when you're in here, but as long as you aren't making fish, or if you like the smell of fish, then it'd smell great. And you are right by the ocean, so that's probably the case for a lot of them. But look at all the beds here, and you can see they're basically just pieces of fabric laying on some wood. Not sure how comfortable that would be, but according to this, they had a nice healthy diet. You got some Florida oranges, apples from who knows where, but I'm sure those were delicious, and some bread, and fire-cooked food. Always tastes better. There's some garlic, maybe to keep vampires away. Of course, you never know what's going to come attack you here in the middle of the night. And here we are in the courtyard of the fort here. Apparently this was used here for the townspeople if the city was under siege. So everyone would come here and take refuge in these storage, or these rooms around here were used for storage. Things like practicing using like the weapons and doing marches, and just kind of a community living area was used here, and or was done here. So that's pretty cool. And then apparently over here they had what they called a tidal toilet, in which 2 times a day when the tide would come in and leave, it'd take all the waste with you, so you don't have to worry about flushing if you're commonly forgetting that, and probably didn't even have to worry about leaving the seat up. And right over here, actually speaking of the tidal toilet, is a picture of what it used to look like here. It says, this colonial restroom had a twice daily natural flushing system. Incoming tides filled the pit with seawater, and outgoing tides flushed waste out into the bay. So you can see here, you have some wooden seats, plastered lined pit, and away it goes. Stone lined sewer to and from the bay. So, according to this, you really didn't have to worry about making sure the seat was down. So over here we have an old cannon here, which I believe those probably were the 6-pound balls there, but I could be wrong, and I'm not going to be able to go lift it because it's all roped off. But here's some facts here about the cannon. It says this cannon weighs 44 quintals, which back in the day you probably knew what that meant. Nowadays, no idea, but it translates it into overall about 4,500 pounds that this cannon here weighs. So moving it around, probably not easy. Make sure you get it in the right spot at the first time. Here they talk about where they have cannons that, you know, how they shoot other things besides your typical cannonball that you see there. They have a bar shot, a chain shot, which was used, it says, attached by chain. These cannonballs would cut through ropes and sails, slowing the ship down and making it easier to hit. A Spanish shot, also known as a spiked shot, or a typical round shot. And here's a grape shot. Not like the fruit, but it says here, a cluster of smaller iron balls. It could be used against enemy troops and artillery at medium range. And a canister shot. It says hundreds of lead musket balls in a tin case used against attacking soldiers at close range. It worked like a massive shotgun shell. So, cannons obviously have more than one use than your typical cannonballs to do whatever damage you need to against your enemy. Here we are, right here as we enter through, after learning about how cannons can shoot things to destroy you. Says this is the powder room. You can enter the former powder magazine through this doorway. Built in 1675, it is one of the oldest rooms in the fort. It was originally built to store gunpowder, but soon proved too damp. During the 1702 siege, the room was used as a trash pit and then sealed and closed. When reopened over 100 years later, animal bones found inside inspired many local myths, one claiming the bones belonged to the lovers buried alive inside the Castille. So, let's go ahead, crawl through, and take a look. Whew. Yeah, this place, small little area. Got a little bit of a light now, but before it probably didn't have any light, or not as well lit. But you can see the archway, and when apparently they reopened this, they found a lot of remains in here. So that's pretty cool. And let's take a look and see what we have here. It looks like here we have a spot where you can play some games. I got checkers, it looks like, going on right there. Some cards, and also if you want to sew anything, it looks like you can do that on between your turns during the game here, or eat some cheese and bread while you're at it. And over there, you get tired after playing all those games, you can go to bed and either choose the top bunk or bottom bunk. And it says here, close quarters. This replica British era bunk would have slept 4 soldiers, 2 on top and 2 on bottom. These 4 men were considered messmates. I don't know if that's because they might make a mess together or what, but it does say it's the basic unit of the British Army. Everything they had fit here. At the foot of the bed, you will see a place for 4 guns and 4 coats. There is space below for other gear. So, there it is. You can see some guns in the background. Put your hats on top, your coat, and you'd be ready to go in a quick minute here if you needed to get up and fight off the enemy. Here's a picture. It says Sir Frederick Haldimand, if I'm saying that correctly. But there he is, all geared up and ready to go. And over here it says inside a casemate. It says this model here, which is this one here, says this model shows a cross section of how this casemate would have looked during the British period. The curved ceilings built by the Spanish during the renovations in the 1730s allowed for a larger cannon on the gun deck above. The British added a second floor to these casemates so that more soldiers could live here. So there you have the cannon on the top, and down here we have the stairs, a little cross section of it. And here is an example of what one of the storage rooms here might look like. And they have some food, and they have fruits, they have wood for fire. Then they have some supplies here for loading up the cannon. And then over here it tells a little bit more about the storage room. It says, nearly all the rooms on this western side of the Castille were used to preserve food goods such as rice, dried corn, cornmeal, flour, dried beans, and dried and salted meats. The rest of the rooms stored gunpowder, ammunition, small arms, supplies for ship repairs, blacksmith and carpentry tools, and supplies, and the soldiers' pay. So it'd be used if the town became under siege, and then all the residents would come into the courtyard, and these supply rooms would be able to provide some food for everyone during that time period. And here you can see that they have different fruits and foods, vegetables like the corn. And then these here could be used for possibly the powder. Obviously they wouldn't store everything together in one room. It seems like they'd have them in separate ones here. Probably don't want your ammunition right next to your food, but who knows. And here we have some things for like what they'd use to eat with. And if you need to start loading up your cannon, you have the supplies right here. Over here, it shows here the natural construction of what they used for building the fort here. It says the Castille could only be constructed out of natural materials available locally. By exploring the area, the Spanish discovered everything they required. The barrier islands yielded a stone they called coquina, the Spanish word for tiny shell. A limestone made up primarily of shells bonded together with calcium and sand. Oyster and clam shells were plentiful in the area, and there was plenty of sand and fresh water. Burning the shells yielded lime, which was mixed with the sand and water to form several building materials. So they have here the lime and fire. They have the rough plaster and fine plaster, whitewash, and then tabby, which has a little bit larger shells here. And then here they have the building blocks. It says coquina is a rare limestone found on the Barriers Island near here. The Spanish word means tiny shell, and this is what the stone is made out of. It says workmen quarried over 150 million pounds of coquina, barged blocks across the bay, and laid them into the Castille. All of it had to be cut, shaped, and set by hand. Coquina made a refuge that was much stronger than the 9 wooden forts before Castille. And there is a block of coquina. which this Castille is made out of many of those blocks. And here they have a kind of a mock setup of the Castille. Have some information here. Apparently this place also took 23 years to make, considering they had food shortages and diseases that kind of halted some of their construction on the site. So right here at the beginning is where we would come in, or where we came in, and then touring the courtyard here, and next we'll go up on top and see each of the 4 points that it has. But this is kind of a cool replica of the fort itself, so you can see it in its entirety. So let's go up and take a look up top. So as you come up here, they have this guy to give you some friendly warnings. Not to sit, climb, or stand on the walls and cannons. Make sure you watch out for the low walls there too. And this guy here, now hanging out on the wall, ready to jump off. So let's go up and see what we have up here. So up here, you can see out in the distance, they have some sort of fishing boat there. And over there, a couple people having fun on a jet ski. Or a wet jet, whatever you want to call them. And then here we have some outlook posts, some cannons. We'll take a little closer look. And something that I didn't know before, apparently there's a space outside around here that you can go walking around and find some information as well. So we'll get to do that here too and see what they have. A few fun facts here while we're up here is that as I kind of alluded to before, that this place, it took about 23 years to build. It was 1672 is when it started, and finalized completion in 1695. And at the time, some of the rooms were pretty much all the rooms were wood interior, and then it took about another, I think it was 60 years for all the interior rooms to become made out of the stone like all the outside was here. It says that in today's standards, this would have cost about $30 to $35 million to make, which doesn't actually seem too bad for protection from pirates and stuff like that, which is what this actually began as and was built, because there were 9 wooden forts that were protecting the area before this, but then after those proved to be inadequate, and they were building it so they could protect the treasure that were on their ships there from the pirate attacks. So it's kind of a fun little fact here about the Castille San Marco, and let's go ahead and take a look at some more. And here it talks about the design of the fort itself. So some summary here of it. The star design responded to the advent of a deadly new weapon, the cannon. The fort's complex shape meant a battery of cannons on the deck could create interlocking fields of fire. It says low and flat on the landscape, star-shaped forts used an obstacle course of defenses. Diamond-shaped protruding corners called bastions created crossfire to repel the enemy. From the bastions and curtain walls, cannon fire could deter or engage an advancing army. A wide ditch at the base of the fort lacked cover for invaders, allowing musket fire to rain down from above. So, as you can see here in the diagram, you have the cannons, the musket fire, just kind of creating a whole, like they said, crossfire of defense here. So when you're coming, you're probably pretty likely to be hit by something. So that's a good strategy in order to ward off and keep the place safe from other people here. Also says the thick fort walls and the rising slope deflected incoming cannonballs. The fort design has stood the test of time despite attacks. The Castille was never conquered. However, this place was transferred in ownership peacefully a few times here. And here is a view of the drawbridge from up top. So over there is where we came in, and then you just go in here, go around the courtyard inside, and then make your way up here. And if you see here, they have these spots where there's like a cutout into the wall. That's probably where the cannons would go, it looks like. And then here, before I step on it any further, is where probably the musketmen were stationed and able to fire upon the enemy from in this spot. So you had your protection of the musketmen and the cannonball right next to each other. And let's just take a moment to appreciate this view. And here is a narrow little lookout point that you can squeeze through. I can't even, if I'm standing shoulder to shoulder, I can't even get through without scraping myself. So I'm actually going in sideways right now. People were a lot smaller back then, apparently. But anyway, as you can see, inside here, you can look out that way, take a look out that way, or take a look out that way to see if any enemies were coming. And if they were, you'd probably beller to the people around you and say, "Get your cannons ready, we got enemies on the way." And if you're in a hurry, you probably didn't want to be a very large person going through this, because as you can see, it's pretty narrow, and I'm going slow because I have to go sideways. But at least you had some good views of palm trees also. That's kind of handy. And over there right now, they're doing some water tours apparently. And there we have it. There was a tour of the Castille de San Marco here in St. Augustine, Florida. If you're here and you have a national park pass, like one of the annual ones that they sell, I had recently got one when I went to the Badlands National Park in Wyoming, and figured I could use it throughout the year. And I actually didn't know it was good here, but apparently it is. So if you have one of those, you are able to come here as part of that. You don't have to pay any extra admission, but if you don't, then kind of remember, look up to see what their price is. I am not even really sure what the price would have been for today since I had the pass, but if you are visiting any other areas, feel free to get the pass because it'd be well worth it for sure. Also, there is paid parking here, so keep that in mind when you come here, that there are parking spots, but it's just to pay parking. But I liked it. It was pretty cool to see how this was a place that kept St. Augustine safe for many years. I didn't realize too that the coquina itself took so long to settle, and just kind of actually seeing it as opposed to just hearing about it was pretty cool. And then too, to think for me is awesome, to think about like how they had the whole city here if they're under attack, and they protected their citizens through that way. But yeah, feel free, check it out for yourself. I'll include a link here to the actual Castille webpage, and feel free to check out some of my other videos. Currently I have some up that are from Nebraska, and I'm going to be getting some up with Wyoming and South Dakota, and also I have one right now that's up with South Dakota of feeding the prairie dogs. And by the time this comes out, all of those other ones should be up, but I'll see how I edit these together and post them. And some of the other ones that I have up are of unique food tasting, such as the snack crates from Sweden and Thailand and Spain, and then ate a tarantula, which definitely wasn't good. But feel free to check those out, and if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments, and join me for the next adventure.